This man has been blacklisted from academia specifically for the battle that he chose to fight. So just remember that too. Like who these institutions side with against who has the bravery to explain the situation on the ground. One of the things that I saw that I find to be particularly gross was, of course, the Harvard alumnus, the Harvard alumni going balls to the wall, nutty mode in their endless efforts to squash any kind of protest that is declared pro-Palestine, which means it's pro-Hamas and pro-terror. Fake news is running rampant on Twitter, but this is a huge deal. So Harvard students group issued an anti-Israel statement, okay? The CEOs want the students blacklisted. Billionaire hedge fund CEO Bill Ackman and several other business leaders are demanding Harvard University release the names of the students whose organization signed on a letter to blame solely Israel for the deadly attacks by Hamas. I'll say it one more time. It is solely in the hands of Israel. I'll say it with my chest all day, every goddamn day. Okay? Get the fuck out of here. And it's not simply just the perspective of a bunch of Harvard students or this dumbass fucking Twitch streamer. It is the perspective of academics. It is the perspective of people who have dedicated their lives to covering this conflict. It is the perspective of many well-read individuals, many of them Jewish, by the way. It is ridiculous. It is utterly and entirely ahistorical to be like, oh, Hamas is built in a fucking vacuum. Yes, Holocaust survivors. I mean, this was on the Chomsky subreddit that I saw. It's like the abbreviated version of the Gabor Maté cake. Where the fuck is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, it's abbreviated because it took filthy ass Russell Brand out of the equation, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Here. Let's watch this.
As an infant.
This is incredibly clear, concise. Go ahead. Harvard be like, yo, dude, Holocaust survivor, fuck you. You fucking anti-Semite.
But I'm personally a Holocaust survivor as an infant. I barely survived. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz, and most of my extended family was killed. I became a Zionist. This dream of the Jewish people resurrected in their historical homeland, and the barbed wire of Auschwitz being replaced by the boundaries of a Jewish state with a powerful army. And then I found out that it wasn't exactly like that. That in order to make this Jewish dream a reality, we had to visit a nightmare on the local population. And there's no way you could have ever created a Jewish state without oppressing and expelling the local population. Jewish Israeli historians have shown without a doubt that the expulsion of the Palestinians was persistent, it was pervasive, it was cruel, it was murderous, and with deliberate attempt. So that's what's called the Nakba in Arabic, the disaster or the catastrophe. There's a law that you cannot deny the Holocaust. But in Israel, you're not allowed to mention the Nakba, even though it was at the very basis of the foundation of the state. I visited the occupied territories, Russell, during the first Intifada. I cried every day for 2 weeks at what I saw. The brutality of the occupation, the petty harassment, the murderousness of it, or cutting down of Palestinian olive groves, the denial of water rights, the humiliations. And this went on, and it's much worse now than it was then. It's the longest ethnic cleansing operation in the 20th and 21st centuries. I could land in Tel Aviv tomorrow and demand citizenship under the law of the right of return. But my Palestinian friend in Vancouver, Hannah Kawas, who was born in Jerusalem, can't even visit. Now, if I have the right of return after 2,000 years, how come Hannah hasn't got the right?
Rewind. You know how many times I've listened to this speech? What are you, crazy?
to return after 70 years. So then you have these miserable people packed into this horrible, people call it the world's largest outdoor prison, which is what it is. You don't have to support Hamas policy.
This is Aaron Mate's father. What the hell happened to his son? His son's an anti-vax dipshit now. Wait, no, you're wrong. What? No, you're mistaking Aaron. Literally left Max Blumenthal's Operation Gray Zone specifically due to Blumenthal becoming a fucking right-wing freak, with Aaron Maté, who now lives in China. Or am I thinking of someone else? Oh fuck, I'm thinking of Ben Norton. You're right. I'm thinking of Ben Norton, but also shit. But Aaron Maté himself is also not. I mean, he stayed, I think, right? Did he stay with Gray Zone still? Fuck. That's Ben Norton. Aaron Maté still does very good coverage on a lot of things. He does have some wild takes though. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm mistaken. Yeah, you're right. I did think of I was mistaking it with Ben Norton. Yeah, I'm not the biggest. I'm not a big fan of obviously the Gray Zone. I think they do have some wild takes. I think Aaron usually does decent journalism, but I'm not entirely familiar with all of his entire body of work. Sorry, I thought you were mistaking him with it's my mistake. Condemn his anti-vax takes? Is he? If he's anti-vax, then yes, of course I condemn it. That's ridiculous. TikTok is deleting anything about Palestine, lol? No shot. Anyway, whatever. Just listen to
policies to stand up for Palestinian rights. That's a complete falsity. If you take the worst thing you can say about Hamas, multiplied by 1,000 times, and it still will not meet the Israeli repression and killing and dispossession of Palestinians. Anybody who criticizes Israel is an anti-Semite, is simply an egregious attempt to intimidate good non-Jews who are willing to stand up for what is true. If you look at the Western press, when Hong Kong demonstrators throw stones at the police in Hong Kong, that's considered to be heroism. When in Myanmar, the demonstrators throw slingshots at the army, at the oppressive army, they're considered to be heroes in the Western press. When Palestinian kids throw stones at the Israeli soldiers, they're called terrorists. And Israel gets away with a lot more without much less criticism in the Western press than any other country. He runs a program for Palestinian children who spend time in Israeli jails. 14, 15, 16-year-olds are jailed for months or years. Sometimes they can't see their families for months. She says, we don't have post-traumatic stress disorder here because the trauma is never post. The trauma is daily, she said. If he's got any ounce of humanity left, he would cry like I did for 2 weeks when I was there. Anybody can go on YouTube and listen to Ilan Pappé, an Israeli historian. Anybody can listen to Norman Finkelstein, a Jewish professor, world expert on Gaza, who was denied tenure at his university because of his public speaking.
Ironic, because the guy who made it his life mission to bully and humiliate and blacklist Norm Finkelstein is, of course, the world's most eminent, world's most famous pedophilia defender, Alan fucking Dershowitz. So just remember that too. Like, who these institutions side with against who has the bravery to explain the situation on the ground. That's right. Now, if you were to say, oh, well, have you seen Hasan? Have you seen what Norm's latest takes are? Have you seen what his latest takes are? Yeah, he's old, man. I don't care. Okay? Yeah, I don't agree with everything, but it doesn't matter because he's absolutely, unimaginably, 100% correct on everything he has written, and he has written extensively on Israel. This was his life's work, okay? Can't believe that at Harvard, the Dersh is a well-respected professor for all of his incredible fucking for all of his incredible work on, talking about lowering the age of consent from a constitutional perspective, of course, or successfully defending Jeffrey Epstein and being his friend. Oh, piece of shit.
Is no good Zionism. It's a racist ideology. It's a violent ideology. And don't believe me, look at Palestine the last 100 years. That's Israel. There is no other one. When Israel massacres thousands of people in Gaza, Israelis can stop it immediately. You can have 100,000 Israelis on the streets. Nobody will get shot. Where are they? Where are these Israelis? When did they ever come out?
Well, it's kind of turned into a nothing term. Gabor Maté basically invented trauma-informed care. Yeah.
I mean, many. I don't mean 10 in Sheikh Jarrah. Everybody knows what happens when you drop a 1-ton bomb in a residential neighborhood. You don't have to be a genius. You know people will die. Israel is a democracy for Jews. And who do they vote for? The same people over and over and over again. Does it matter if it's Gantz or Netanyahu? There is nothing to justify, nothing to excuse what Israel does. Nothing to excuse what the Zionists have been doing in Palestine for 100 years. Nothing. When they bomb Gaza, you can hear it in Tel Aviv. There is...
I mean, people watch it from the rooftops and hillsides in Sderot, so...
Against Israeli policy. You can listen to any number of Israeli Defense Forces soldiers who talk about the brutality that they now regret having committed. You can listen to Israeli pilots who talk about why they refuse to fly over Gaza because of the atrocities they're made to commit. You can get all the information you want. So if anybody these days doesn't know, it's not because the information is not available. And none of that excuses not knowing truth and this deliberate attempt to silence anybody who speaks, Jewish or non-Jewish. And I really wish that non-Jews of goodwill would stand up against the calumny and not be intimidated by this charge of anti-Semitism. I really wish that. It's not a question of being pro-Palestinian. It's a question of are you in favor of justice and liberty and freedom and truth, or are you not?
It's so crazy, dude. What is this? Invisible bias? Who wrote this? Palestinians just endured an exceptionally brutal weekend in Gaza. The death toll closed the appalling benchmark of 1,000, overwhelming civilians. In the West Bank, Israeli soldiers and settlers also killed at least 9 Palestinians amid protests. When is this? This is not this last time. Omar Badar. Oh, it's 2014. That's why I was like, there's no way they would write this article now. There's no fucking way. Okay. Salon is not writing an article like that any longer. You know what I'm saying? What's your opinion on regards to Lebanon's place in this? I'm in Lebanon right now. I don't know what's going to happen.
This is the 35th year of a harsh, brutal, and vicious occupation supported unilaterally.
In 2002, chat. In 2002, remember, when you talk about Israel and Palestine, remember when people are talking about the situation on the ground also matters. And let me tell you, it has gotten only fucking worse. Significantly worse. Here's Norman Finkelstein, by the way.
Anymore. I really don't. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears.
There's a girl crying, yelling at Norm Finkelstein, saying like he's like justifying death and destruction or something of Israel.
To the crocodile tears.
The girl in this video is a non-Jewish German person.
Folks, allow me to finish and allow me to finish. Listen, sir. Allow me to finish. Sir, I don't like to play before an audience the Holocaust card. But since now I feel compelled to. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother, please shut up. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on my father's side,
the Jews did not take arms against the Germans.
my late father was in Auschwitz concentration.
Dude, typical right-winger. Jews did not take up arms against the Germans. Yeah, dude, that's why the Holocaust happened. Like, that in and of itself is revisionist, okay? You're a piece of shit. I don't know if you're Jewish or not, but that is like kind of fucking anti-Semitic. They literally did do that, by the way, and ironically violently suppressed, but, you know.
Concentration camp. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on both sides was exterminated. Both of my parents were in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And it's precisely and exactly because of the lessons my parents taught me and my two siblings that I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians. And I consider nothing more despicable than to use their suffering and their martyrdom to try to justify the torture, the brutalization, the demolition of homes that Israel daily commits against the Palestinians. So I refuse.
This man has been blacklisted from academia specifically for the battle that he chose to fight. Incredibly stubborn. Sure, he's a bit of a boomer, okay? Sure, he's a bit of a boomer, okay? He's just don't ask him about other culture war stuff. Ultimately, though, I will always hail him as a hero and an exhibit in bravery, okay? Because a lot of people say like, oh, dude, you know, we live in the free world. We live in America. We can say whatever the fuck we want. And the reality is, no, you kind of can't. He is anti-BDS, yes. He believes that, I disagree with him on that as well. He believes that BDS is designed, I think he's, again, a bit of a boomer, and he thinks that BDS is designed specifically to like eviscerate the Israeli state, which will never happen, and it's counterproductive, and I think that's what he says. Oh my God, people always say, what is BDS? That's crazy. Every day I cover it. Every day, you know what? This is my job. I got to repeat myself sometimes, especially because people are asking in good faith. BDS is boycott, divest, and sanction the state of Israel for its colonial occupation and its apartheid regime. It was tailored around the successful BDS movement in apartheid South Africa. Let's finish this.
Any longer to be intimidated or browbeaten by the tears. If you had any heart in you, you would be crying for the Palestinians.
Dude, this morning we had people asking what MSM was because of the title, and reminds me of how online we are. No, MSM might be online, but BDS is not an online phenomena. It's a movement, and anyone who's well read on history would know, at least from the BDS movement in apartheid South Africa, against apartheid South Africa.
Protests have been overwhelmingly nonviolent. If they were violent, how can it be that after 6 weeks, the first injuries, a scratch occurred on May 14th? How can that be if they were violent? But even if they were violent, I would say to the people of Gaza, God bless you. I hope you break through that thing.
MSM, men who has sex with men. That's what you're. It would be super interesting to analyze what Western media coverage was like about South African apartheid when it was happening. I think we'll do that research on my own, but it would be interesting to see your comments. I have done it. I have looked into it. I think the original, when it first began, it was South Africa was a anti-communist safe haven that collaborated with Israel and collaborated with America, which is why South Africa had to exist in the way that it did. If you want to know here, I mean, we can look at this. This is a town hall interview with Nelson Mandela, who is just fresh out of prison at this point, okay? After being asked 2 times while he's in prison, where the South African government says to Nelson Mandela, if you denounce violence and the violent acts that your supporters are engaging in, and if you say you're going to put an end to it, and you denounce communism, Marxism, socialism, then we'll let you out of prison. 2 times. He said no, twice, until they had to release him. He was in prison for what, since 67 at this point, or 65? Yeah, a little bit. Give me the time codes.
The police are still killing our people, as they've done over the years. Vigilante groups are openly arming themselves for the specific purpose of attacking progressive groups and progressive leaders.
If Israel's sanctioning gets less money from the military, wouldn't the Arab nations move in to flatten it? I feel like South Africa didn't have that problem, no? Asking in good faith. Yeah, dude, totally. All of those surrounding nations would just go in and flatten Israel. No, this is a paranoid delusion that you can only maintain if you are completely oblivious to the relationship with neighboring nations, okay, that the United States of America has. It's fear-mongering. They already tried it at a time when Israel wasn't as strong, and they fucking failed. Israel also has nukes. It's ridiculous to think that a nuclear-armed state that has gotten $264 billion in aid from the United States of America since like 1967, okay, that and much of that aid is actually in the last like couple of decades, for the record, where the biggest Israel hater American president of all time, Barack Obama, gave on his way out $38 billion in aid to Israel for 10 years. If you think that country is going to get flattened by, what, Jordan, you're out of your fucking mind. The amount of influence that Israel has over the surrounding regions should be proven to you simply by looking at the situation on the Gaza-Egypt checkpoint. Ridiculous.
Right wing is also arming itself openly.
And before you say, imagine if they had someone like Nelson Mandela speaking for the Palestinians. Yeah, Israel saw a successful anti-apartheid movement and effectively neutered the Nelson Mandelas of Palestine. Okay? Instead of imprisoning them foolishly, they just killed them. Israel was founded in 1948, the same year that the apartheid was written into law in South Africa. It's as if South African apartheid is still in effect in terms of timeline. I hope that gives people some context.
And they say they are doing so for the purpose of destroying the ANC.
I agree with you on almost every single point, although I believe there's a fine line between fighting against the oppressor and justifying the violence that I can't get over. Maybe you can explain this a bit. You do not need to justify violence, okay? Violence is a constant regardless. If your goal is to stop violence, you have to look at the root cause of said violence. And you have to starve that out. You have to end it. But you can't say I want people to fight the oppressor and then go, oh, but I can't condone violence. Like, how do you fight it? With tickle parties? Like, what do you think?
Calling for some of us to be hanged. Why would you think that we should now relax our strategies? What has happened?
Let's move on to the next question.
Amanta. My name is Gloria Toot. I was born here in Harlem. I'm a lawyer. I've lived here all my life. I'm also on the board of directors of the African Educational Foundation that's raising money to train the people of Africa for industry. I am concerned about the future economy of South Africa. I am concerned when I look at the newer countries that gained their freedom so hard fought, indeed did not demonstrate sound fiscal policy. Illiteracy is still quite large, and hunger. What can assure me as a human being and a concerned African American that the ANC will indeed have a fiscal solvent policy that will continue the use of the resources of South Africa in a meaningful way? Or should I put it more succinctly, will your economy be based on the Marxist system, socialism.
I love that. I think one of the biggest L's in South Africa, in my opinion, was that it wasn't based on a socialist structure, for the record. That's why South Africa is in the situation that it's in right now. Ironically, it was supposed to be, and then that project never actually came to fruition. Very sad reality, as a matter of fact. Much like the failed Reconstruction project, South Africa, in a post-apartheid state, still maintained the same racial hierarchies, not to the same codified structure, not to a T. However, the viable land and all of the wealth is still trapped in the 10% minority white population. It went from a situation where there was obviously unjustifiable and untold amounts of colonial apartheid state violence to no apartheid state that is legal, at least, but yet still a nation in economic disarray. The Mandela government, one of the deputy presidents was F.W. de Klerk, the MP president from the apartheid structure. It's fucking insane. Yeah, because you always have to make concessions. You have to make, if you are engaging in any act of emancipation as a black person, or as any colonized peoples in general, you have to make concessions to your oppressors at the end of that every single time.
Or capitalism, or both.
I knew that was the question you wanted to ask. I am happy that you have had the courage to put it directly.
Someone in the chat said that she's like a Heritage Foundation plant or something. Gloria Toot is a property developer who started an offshoot of the Heritage Foundation. For context on who they're asking. Yeah, of course.
We are not concerned with models. We are not concerned with labels. We are practical men and women whose solutions are dictated by the actual conditions existing in our country. As somebody has said, we do not care whether the cat is black or white, as long as it can catch mice.
If I may...
What we want to achieve is a healthy and vibrant economy which can ensure full employment.
Will Bear is correct. Current South Africa is what happens when you transition from a fascist government to a capitalist one, because apartheid divided races into classes and capitalism keeps the class division. Yeah.
To our people, maximum production and the development of social justice. We want...
You dare interrupt Nelson Mandela? Yes. Sometimes with the top of the hour ad break, as a matter of fact. Of course, if you do not want Nelson Mandela to be interrupted by the top of the hour ad break, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get one free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
Wanted to rectify the imbalances that exist in our economy. One of the companies, well-known companies in the country, one company owns more than 75% of the shares quoted in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. This is illustrative of how our economy is organized. It is the resources of the country are monopolized by a white minority, even in that minority by a few individuals, whereas the masses of the people, especially blacks, are left poor, ridden with disease, illiteracy, without educational facilities. We wanted to develop an economy which will put an end to that. and will leave to other people to put a label if they so wish.
Mr. Mandela, forgive me. We have to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you.